All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fireside Chat. I hope that music was entertaining and fun for you because I was definitely dancing. I'm your host, Shruti Kapoor, and I'm excited to bring another guest with me today on another episode of Fireside Chats. A little bit about these Fireside Chats. In these Fireside Chats, I bring developers from the community who are doing amazing and have done amazing accomplishments and bring them here to share not just their successes, but also the struggles and the real life of being a developer. We often hear amazing things that people have done and see them on Twitter, and they're writing books and they're creating content and they have YouTube channel, and it seems like they're doing everything. And then when we share and when we go through our struggles, it seems like we're the only ones who's having a hard time. Or for example, when it takes us like 3 days to solve a bug, we think it's just us who's dumb and everybody else is doing great. So, in these fireside chats, I bring inspirational people from the community and show you the real side of being a developer and show you that you are not alone and everybody else is facing issues and make you feel a little bit not alone and a little bit with the community. Today, it is my pleasure to bring my friend and an amazing engineer, Eve Porcello, on the stage. Eve is a software engineer, instructor, author, and co founder of Moon Highway. She's written courses, she's created video content for Egghead.io, she's given courses for O'Reilly Media. She has books that I have learned GraphQL from. The first time I met her, I was actually at a training event at PayPal, and she was teaching how to use GraphQL in web apps. And the moment she started explaining GraphQL is when it actually started making sense to me, even though I had been using GraphQL for a long time. So she's an amazing teacher. And today we're also going to be talking about how to start your own business because she has her own business, how to start writing books because I know that's a big goal for a lot of people in the audience, and how to teach developers because Eve is the master of it. It's my pleasure to bring Eve on stage. Hi, Eve.
Yay! Hey, how are you? Thank you for that nice introduction. That was so sweet.
All truth, all truth.
Very, very nice. I appreciate it.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Yeah, just living the dream. How are you?
I am kind of trying to live the dream. that that story I shared about somebody taking like 3 days to solve a bug. That's me. It's me.
That's never happened to me, of course. It's just so easy for me all the time to
I
solve every problem. It has never taken me days or weeks to yeah, I've been there for sure. I'm not in that moment right now, but I definitely am often in that moment. Yeah.
I said day three, but it's actually been day 21. It's been a
Great.
while.
Week 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, week three. Still here. Still
Oh,
here.
brutal. I'm so sorry. You'll figure it out. It'll all come to you in a dream some night, I feel like.
Yeah, I should sleep a lot then.
I think so. I think that's for the best.
Before we start, Eve, is there anything else you want to introduce yourself as?
Introduce myself as? Great question. No, I think you covered it pretty well. I just do a lot of do a lot of software work and teaching and all sorts of stuff like that. So you did
I think
great.
one thing that I remember you would always share is you used to go skiing in Tahoe. How's that going?
It's good. Now live in Oregon, but yeah, we don't have quite as many resorts here, but the skiing is great. So I'm a big Oregon ski activist now. I don't know what that advocate is the word I was looking for. But yeah, it's coming up on ski season right now. It snowed up in the mountains last night, so it's happening.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I didn't know Oregon had a lot of ski resorts.
Yeah, not as many as Tahoe, but it's still good skiing. So it still
All
counts.
right. Okay. All right, let's get into it. So, Eve, I find you super inspirational because you are somebody who has started their own kind of journey, giving content, like writing books, teaching people, teaching companies how to adopt technologies like GraphQL, which is something that I used a lot. you also have a book that I used as well to understand GraphQL. It's so easy to understand and it's so approachable. And I want to talk about like how you started teaching developers. But before, I want to talk to you about how and why you decided to start your own business.
Well, I moved to Lake Tahoe in 2012, and my husband, Alex, who's a developer, had wanted me to work with him for years. And I was always very against that idea. I said I would never do it. We can't work together, it'll be too much. And then we moved to Tahoe, where at the time in particular, there were no jobs at all. So I was like, I guess I work with you now because I don't have another job. So I, at the time, was doing a lot of kind of like adjacent to developer roles, working in marketing, working in like specifications, UX design, things like that. So from there, I wanted to learn JavaScript and how to build front end sites, just because I had worked with a lot of developers who were always telling me, you can't do this stuff, you can't we can't do it by that deadline. And I really wanted to know more about, well, like, is that true or not? So ultimately got into teaching, I think, because I like working around other people. I was working alone a lot. And it's just been really fun to be able to. I used to go teach, I guess, a lot in person, but that doesn't happen quite as much anymore. But it's still great to get the interaction piece that I was missing out on.
That's so interesting. Like, I didn't know that you started it kind of from a perspective of teaching itself. I'm curious, like, starting in this industry as somebody who doesn't have a lot of background with the industry can often come with a lot of like feeling of imposter syndrome, feeling like, you don't belong here. Did that ever happen to you? And how did you kind of overcome that feeling in the beginning, or even if it happens now?
Yeah, I think whenever you go to teach a class, a lot of people are not that thrilled to be there, honestly. Not everybody is
Hmm.
super stoked. So sometimes they're being asked to go by their team, or they're trying to get something done really quickly. So, yeah, I think at the beginning, there was a lot of fear of just students essentially, like how am I up here speaking about this stuff when these people who are in my class have so many decades of experience, or even really deep experience in one topic. And I feel like part of what's helped me overcome that is just like learning really deeply about a new thing and understanding that no matter how much background you have in a technology, you can, if you're new to the industry, you can always jump in and learn the new thing. And that new thing is something that even someone with decades of experience doesn't know about. So you can always help people learn, even if you are newer.
Hmm. I love it. That like learning a new thing is, I feel like is such a important skill in tech, because like GraphQL was new 5 years ago. Now everybody's doing GraphQL,
Yeah.
and AI is new now. And 5 years from now, everybody will be doing AI. And well, most companies are already doing AI. There's AI in everything, and
Just put it in
and
there at some point. Yeah.
yeah, even if the
AI it
product
up.
doesn't have it,
Of
yeah.
course.
And it may just be an integration with ChatGPT, but AI is there.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, so learning a new skill in tech is a really important thing. And from your perspective, you have to learn that enough so that and deep enough so that you can give like you can teach somebody. So share a little bit with us, like how do you approach learning a new tech, um, especially from a perspective where you are kind of looked upon as the expert in that, or at least
Mhm.
somebody who knows enough to teach us.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, sometimes I can do what I think is the wrong thing, and that's to just research something, watch a bunch of videos, read a lot of docs, and really get bogged down in the kind of like academic part of it. And what I find most useful is building something with that technology. So even if it's a silly app that no one will ever use or will never see the light of day, lock it down in your GitHub. I think building something is usually the best path to really having that depth of understanding, thinking about like, what are the things that I would want to know about this? Maybe like, I need some sort of auth integration. I need some sort of testing piece, and just trying to build something with that. And then what I typically do when I go to teach something is I build the thing. It's kind of bad. And then I just go back and I rebuild it over and over again, just thinking about like, what is most useful to the students? How do we make this like the smallest case possible so that when someone's learning something, they're not getting super overwhelmed, but it's practical enough that it feels like as soon as someone gets back to work, they'll be able to actually build stuff.
Hmm. I love it. I think that reminds me of the less or like the talk or the sessions that I took with you where you were teaching us how to build a ski app, and it was really fun because basically you were supposed to integrate like all these different APIs that like sent you like snow conditions and like slope conditions and whatever, and then we built like a GraphQL API. So like learning GraphQL by building an app that uses GraphQL was like I found that was a very effective way of learning GraphQL. And I kind of took that as well from you. Like even now when I build conference talks, that's something that I think of as well. Like what is a small app that I can build that can help people understand the topic, but also give them something to like play around with. And I think I learned that from you. Like it was so fun to kind of have a hands-on thing to play around with and just like see code in action, not just theoretical.
Yeah, and I think everybody has little hobbies that they're interested in. So I'm always like shoving ski stuff down everyone's throat, but we don't have to go that route. There's probably, if you're into baking or running or whatever the thing might be, that's a fun way of, I think, standing out as a teacher too, because you always remember the yeah, the weird little apps that people make. Not to say that a to-do list app isn't good, but you can always like put a little spin on that to ensure that it's kind of your thing and your vibe.
Yeah, like Eve with skiing.
Exactly, like yeah.
I love
I'm
it.
looking at the desktop of my computer and I see like all these ski apps on it, and yeah, maybe I'll branch out into something else, but at this moment, more ski stuff forever.
Yeah, exactly. It's you. Um, I I remember there was another ski reference in the book as well that you wrote with O'Reilly, Learning
Mhm.
GraphQL. And I was like, okay, I know that person.
That doesn't surprise
I
me
love
yet.
it. Actually, speaking of books, let's talk about writing a book.
Yeah.
It's such an incredible achievement, and you have written multiple books. So tell us a little about what inspired you to write a book, and how did you come up with the topic?
Well, I think so the beginning stages of the book came from when I lived in Sonoma, California, which is where O'Reilly is based. And we saw all of these O'Reilly books at bookshops around the county all the time. So it was like just O'Reilly books are falling out of every cupboard in Sonoma County, I feel like. And we found this one that had a picture of a husband and wife very seriously on the back of the book. And Alex and I were like, maybe we'll write a book someday and we'll have a funny little photo on the back of it. And then we said that and it just kind of left our head for 5 years or so. So later on, we ended up starting to teach React at Yahoo and some other companies, PayPal as well. And there was one book about React, but it was kind of like the earliest version of React, and it felt like maybe due for an update. So we actually got lucky with timing there, just like sent um I would say to anyone, just send emails to people, cold emails to people. Most stuff in my life is the result of these emails that I don't think anyone will ever respond to. So we sent an email to O'Reilly, pitched a book, said React's this cool new library that you can use to build UIs. And then they were like, send us an outline. And then we were like, oh no, how do we write a how do we do that? So then once someone says yes, you actually have to do the thing, which is kind of scary, but it's good ultimately.
Oh, I agree. Pitching the idea isn't as scary as actually doing the idea.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the process of writing that, uh, we did a bunch of not that good things. I would say we just learned a lot of lessons about kind of the process of writing, and ultimately I think everything went back to what I said before, which is like build one app and reverse engineer that, rebuild it a million times over so that it incorporates everything that you want to teach, but also doesn't go to um, doesn't introduce a bunch of concepts that aren't critical to learning React, for example, or GraphQL. So um, starting everything from the place of that app makes it much easier to write about because you just walk people through exactly what you've built. So that's
Hmm.
a little hint there about kind of like where do you start? You probably start with the code, even though it feels like you probably start with the writing.
Oh,
For me at
interesting.
least, it's kind of it starts to flow easier if you have the repo to write about, the project to write
Hmm.
about.
That's such an interesting thing. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, like I think you mentioned it, reverse engineering the project and kind of like thinking about which part is critical
Mhm.
for learning. I think that's such an important thing because um, if you're teaching and you're then building, you may be teaching concepts that people may not use. So kind of like reverse engineering will help you narrow down topics that are actually really important. So
Yeah.
that's such a great idea.
Yeah, I think for classes too, workshops, or even if you're just writing a blog, I think a lot of times people will have you install every single thing and kind of starting from scratch is useful because then you can sort of bring everybody along no matter what their background is, because starting from scratch is easier than starting from a pile of dependencies that are a little trickier to manage.
Yeah, totally. Um, One thing that I've noticed, even with writing blogs or even with like creating content on YouTube or even giving talks,
Yeah.
is the writer's block. Do you
Uh-huh.
face writer's block while writing a book? And how do you overcome
Yeah.
it?
Sorry to interrupt you. I was just joking. But yeah, I definitely experience that all the time. How do I overcome it? I think a lot of it is just for me procrastination. So I feel like if I'm looking around the internet at the latest and greatest techniques about React, or I'm watching a video about React, that's great for research. But if your goal is to write something, you, I can tend to get bogged down in um, not working, but feeling like I'm working, like I'm taking
Hmm.
notes and I'm really, this is great that I'm actually doing this, but the writing part is important. So as far as overcoming that, just kind of like breaking it down. And I've failed at this a million times, but the best case scenario would be to break it down to how much time you have. Because when you're working with a publisher, or if you're self publishing and you're trying to set your own deadlines, making sure that you, first of all, allow way more time than you think. But secondly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just break off little chunks. Say, I'm going to write this part about state management. And I think that typically yields a better result than trying to write the whole thing at once or starting from the beginning. And you're going to have a lot more work than you think. So breaking it down is usually helpful.
Hmm. So breaking down a big task into like smaller tasks and kind of allocating it in your calendar
Yeah.
each day, setting a schedule for it
Yeah.
lets you like basically like setting a schedule for yourself and putting something small in the calendar.
Yeah. Because what we would all love to do is go to a cabin somewhere and write a book and have all this time and stare out over the lake with a mug of tea. But realistically, you probably have another job that you're working on or other projects you have to do. So even if you say, I'm going to do this an hour a day, that is probably a better way to get it done.
I always romanticize myself like sitting in a cabin in Tahoe
Yeah,
with redwoods in the background, like
definitely.
beautiful, writing on my computer, like living the artist life.
Absolutely. Very Instagrammable, yes.
But very expensive to write a book that way.
Yeah, it's true. Yes, too relaxed, yeah.
Love it. One thing that I wanted to ask, like while we were talking about teaching and writing books, is are there any specific tips you would offer for teaching
I think for teaching developers are have a lot of options for the content that they ingest. A lot of people are marketing to them, and what I would just say is to always know that your perspective is interesting to your audience. So I saw that with working in a company with Alex, my husband. He has people who are very passionate about his content specifically. And then there are other people who really like hearing stuff from me. Some people, it doesn't matter. But I think just understanding that your unique perspective, whether that's your examples or how you explain stuff or whatever that unique perspective is, it's going to resonate with some people. So, what I would
developers?
say is like, don't try to change yourself to a certain type of thing to appeal to developers because it's going to be more, I think, more sustainable for you to just kind of do it your own way. And
Yeah.
with developers, I think there's uh, a pace at which we're constantly learning new things that is expected. And it's fun to be part of that fast paced industry. But I think there's always something um, to be said for just not overwhelming people with too much and teaching one thing at a time if you can get away with it. So, like
Mm.
GraphQL, don't teach them everything in a short period of time. Teach them one thing really deeply, ideally.
I love it. I love that. Actually, you've given a lot of conference talks as well. So, would you say that advice would also relate to conference talks as well? And how would you kind of tailor your content for conference talks as opposed to writing blogs, which you've done a lot as well, or creating videos as well?
Yeah, I think the conference talk is its own thing, right? So it is a shorter burst of speaking about something, but I would say try to keep it as focused as possible and then try to connect it with something that you're interested in. If you're someone who loves dev jokes, like someone I know, maybe talk about it that way because it's unique to you and something that people will like. If it's like me, I do um, ridiculous improv stunts that are very ridiculous, but that's very unique to me. Maybe it's vulnerability. You tell a story about something that was really hard for you. That resonates with people too. So it doesn't have to be one particular way, but I would just say, like, find the hook of what you're trying to make the audience feel. So is it you want them to have fun or you want them to relate to your experience or you want them to understand uh, that a lot of really talented developers have talked about the worst things they've ever done at work or the hardest day they've ever had because they crashed production and all these things happen negatively. So, whatever that might be for you, it's going to be just don't don't shy away from storytelling, I would say. So
Hmm.
finding that story is a great way to connect with the audience.
Hmm. So what I heard was being yourself, finding your unique hook, and telling a story to connect with the audience.
Yeah, you can get up there and just show huge blobs of code, but probably the way that people will remember your talk most is if you make them feel something, if you make them laugh, if you
Hmm.
make them uh, feel for you or
Yeah,
what you've gone through. And that connection piece is why people get invited back to give other talks. Like it or
love it.
not,
I
you
love
have
it.
to do more work, but, no, I'm just joking. I think the connection part is the important part.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think if I think back of the talks that have stood out for me are the ones that have definitely like either been super funny or have like shared a story from their personal life of a struggle or something,
Mhm.
or have talked about, like building empathy for them,
Yeah.
or for people, like for developers or the community. So I love that idea, kind of like sharing a story or like sharing a side of you, a personal touch, and trying to make the audience feel something. Um, I love it. I love those ideas. I'm going to use these tips in my next conference talk.
Nice. One thing I stole from The Moth, which is like a storytelling podcast and show, is that you start the story with the way things are, something happens, and then what is it like after that? So that's one to
Hmm.
steal formula wise, just like I was working as a developer and then I crashed production and the company owed $100,000 to Amazon. And then after that, I learned a lesson. So that's just an interesting little format you can use. It's always
And I was
Amazon, right?
about to get fired.
Yeah. And I could write my book in that cabin about it because I had no job.
and and I had 1 hour to solve that bug because everybody was
Exactly.
pinging me.
Exactly. All that stuff. Totally.
I love it. I'm going to use it. Uh, I think one final question that comes to my mind about teaching people and people, new folks who want to start teaching folks about a specific topic is oftentimes people feel that topics in front end development, especially like React or even GraphQL, are super saturated with content. So, how would you advise those people who want to get started with, teaching others? But feel left like feel that they are kind of too late to the game or
Mhm.
there's too much already that people are talking about.
I think that there is that feeling of oversaturation, but no one is going to write the thing or create the video like you will. So
Hmm.
bringing your own unique spin to things is a good place to start. I would also say if you're I know this is advice that a lot of people hear already, but if you're there's so many meetups and things to speak at online or in person, so if you're wanting to get experience with that, just look at a smaller format. So I want to be
Hmm.
giving a conference talk, but a great way to start is just talk at some sort of meetup with other people. You'll meet, that's what I did. You'll meet other people and you'll get experience that way. But as you start to do it more, as you start to write more, as you start to um, give talks more, that starts to be this kind of like web of influence that you have out over other people and you meet tons of people and then people will seek out your content, even if it feels like it's oversaturated. So I think with like React or JavaScript, there are many different ways to write a JavaScript blog. Those aren't going away anytime
Yeah,
soon. So there's no, it feels like, oh, that's already done. But again, no one's going to do it like you. So you should.
yeah. I think you gave me that advice as well when I was starting out with like writing blogs or maybe like giving conference talks is the
Yeah.
you have a unique voice and that has stood by me like all these years. So thank you for that, but also amazing advice.
Well, I think it's true. I think it's no one gives a conference talk like you in particular or has your background. And I think it would be so sad if we didn't get to see dev jokes on stage. It would be so sad
I
if we
know,
didn't get
right?
to read your blogs or all those things. So, yeah, don't deprive the people. Just get your ideas out there and it'll feel easier as you continue to do it. Never
Yeah.
easy, but
And
easier.
yeah, and I think you add also like a really great point, which is like you add your specific spin to it. Like you bring your hiking, skiing experience, and like I have dev jokes, and then Jason Lengstorff has a different way of giving talks. So everybody
Yeah.
kind of brings their own unique experience. Like Shonda talks about like her toddler and kind of relates to the audience that way. So it
Yeah.
really stays with people the way you're kind of like telling your story, and it has like a very unique and like a very personal touch to it, which I feel like resonates with people a lot more. So I love that idea of like putting like your personal spin on it, and you have a unique voice.
Yeah, definitely. I think it feels like you're not supposed to do that when you're getting started. It's like, well, I'm a developer now. I have to be a certain way, and I have to if I don't want them to kick me out, I have to do all this stuff. And I've been super guilty of that in the past, but like I have been more comfortable with myself in just kind of uh, sharing my ideas, even if they're weird or not for everyone. It's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, it helps get your name out there and also get your content out there.
Yeah, I love it. Eve, this was an amazing talk, stream episode. I don't know what this is.
This
It's
was an
I learned
amazing moment in life. Yes.
amazing 30 minutes. I learned a lot, especially because I aspire, like I look up to you a lot, and there's a lot that I get inspiration from. So um, I hope people will also find this super inspirational. Um, you're somebody who feels like is doing amazing in everything, writing books, making content, creating courses. You're everywhere, and it's so inspirational to have you here and share your story with us.
You're an
Before you
inspiration to me
go,
too. Sorry, don't interrupt me. I have to say that.
thank you, Eve. That means a lot coming from you. Uh, Before you go,
Yeah.
uh, in the next section of our fireside chats, we discuss goals that we've been working on over the next that we're gonna work on over the next 30 days, and we've been working on in the next 30 that we've been working on in the past 30 days. Damn, English is hard.
You're doing great.
Words are so hard.
There's so
Um,
many of them. Yeah.
there's just, what was I gonna say? Oh yes, do you have a goal for us that you want to share?
A goal for Yes, I do. So a goal that I am looking forward to doing over the next 30 days, and I appreciate you keeping me accountable for this goal. Everyone should yell at me if they don't see this 30 days from now, but I'd really like to do a there's the link to Discord to yell at me if you
That's
need
where you
to.
can yell.
Yeah, Eve Porcello on Discord available now. So what I'm hoping to do is I've done a lot of hour-long free sessions for GraphQL and React and other things where we get together and talk about something short. The next one I want to do is about storytelling and presentation skills. So I'm working on that, but if I don't say that publicly, it's possible that could leak over into 2024, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to hopefully see some of you there at the free session all about storytelling and talks and in your tech job.
All right, share the link with us, and I'll be sure to put it in the YouTube description as well.
Sweet. Love it.
All right, Eve, this was such an amazing session. I learned so much. I hope folks were inspired by you to start writing a book, create a conference talk, start creating video content, put it on YouTube. What else? Create courses and just be themselves when talking.
Love it. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a joy.
Thank you, Eve. Bye.
Bye.